Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome back to another podcast with Bethany Briggs and Meagan Meredith. I love that name, by the way. The last name Meredith reminds me of Meredith Grey from an awesome show. Anyways, so my name is Yana Kasperczak. Just in case some of you might be hopping on this would be the first video that you're seeing me or the first podcast you're listening to. My name is Yana Kasperczak, and I'm a spiritual awakening coach, core energy coach, and I typically work with women who are entrepreneurs. Who are going through the awakening process as they're building their business. Alongside many other things that we all do, right? I believe all of us are multi-talented, and we want to do a lot of different things. So I wanted to start doing this new thing where everybody actually introduces themselves for like a minute. So Meagan, tell everyone who you are and what you do.
Of course. I like this, Yana. Good idea. So my name is Meagan Meredith, and kind of like Yana, I am a life coach, but for finding your life purpose, your happiness, and law of attraction. I'm also a teacher and a podcaster. I have my own channel called Teach Travel Talk, where you will probably also hear this wonderful talk. It is our Unicorn Chronicles that comes out every once in a while. And I have my own travel blog called mindfullymovingmeagan.com. And I will be coming out with courses soon. I'm putting my date by my birthday. So by June 23rd, everything will be out, and I'll be kind of in the process of pre-selling all of that real soon here. So I'm excited.
Awesome. Bethany.
Hi guys, I'm Bethany. I do a lot. No, I'm a yogi. I do a lot of writing. I have my own store, Bethanys Positive Poetry, and I just have some products that have positivity behind it. I'm also a partial business owner with my husband, as I do all the behind the scenes for our tattoo shop. I'm a mother. I teach my son, so I'm a teacher. I'm a healer, and I love to encourage others and spread love.
Awesome. So for today's topic, that's why I also wanted you ladies to introduce yourselves, because this is not how you were not born the person that you are today, and none of us were. Right. And the topic that we wanted to discuss today is the journey of spiritual awakening. And the reason and the goal for that is to help everyone to start recognizing the signs and seeing where you're at and what's really happening. Because this is one of the biggest shifts that I'm seeing right now in the world, that everyone is so quick to label spiritual awakening as depression or anxiety, because there are a lot of similarities, and it's important to understand the difference for many reasons. But in my experience, for me, it would have been important to understand the difference, so I would have avoided taking pharmaceuticals to deal with my depression. And I said no to pharmaceuticals for my anxiety. And luckily my doctor was like, yes, good job. I'm glad that you're choosing to work through all the stuff on your own without relying on pharmaceuticals. So that's why I still have that doctor. So having said all that, let me see who I want to start with first. Let's go with Bethany, since Meagan started first. Before Bethany, tell us a little bit about your spiritual awakening, and really like anything that comes to mind, your journey, your experience. How did that sound? How did you know? What did you do? Tell us.
All right. So for me, I really felt like the spiritual awakening at the beginning of 2019. I felt a little bit before, but 2019 was like that year that really pushed me into this, I guess how I am today. So in in the beginning of the year, I got off of pharmaceuticals in January on my own. I just felt like my body didn't desire them anymore. I felt like they were just clouding me and bringing me down. And so I decided to myself to get off of them. I also did physical therapy instead of pharmaceuticals. And then it kind of went on to where July 2019 hit. And that's when I started my Kundalini yoga journey. And that was like the first time that I really felt the spiritual awakening. I was battling with anxiety, just the what ifs, the worry of the world, and I just couldn't find that center and that peace. And then I had you, Yana, you tell me you should do yoga. I had my little brother be like, try yoga. And so finally in June, I decided, all right, I'm starting yoga. And I still do yoga every day since then. So I'm on a year and 300 days, almost 2 years of doing it every day straight. But that was the big marker. And then also going into life coaching with you, Yana, that helped tremendously because it kind of bridged the gap between myself and the Kundalini yoga and everything that was coming up. So for our viewers, if you're wanting a life coach, go for it. It's very beneficial. And then I started getting into courses and personal development more. And I got into law of being, which, put me up in levels again, which helped strengthen me and help me find my blocks and my triggers. And I also, in that year, I ended up doing a DMT trip that I went into this DMT, like when I was going through it, it was rough. It was a hard experience, but afterwards it showed me a lot. It showed me what I could work on. And the big thing that came from it was confidence. I didn't have confidence. And so I did the DMT trip before law of being. And that's kind of what prompted me to wanting to do law of being, was because it helped me with my confidence. But with that DMT trip, I went into it. And normally you don't go into a DMT trip with like a desired outcome. You go in with just going with the flow, be in that moment. But I went with, I'm going to meet my anxiety and I'm going to conquer it. Yeah, and it was rough because I met my anxiety and it was dark and it was scary and I didn't like it. I didn't like what I found. And I realized that I was looking at myself in this darkness because I didn't know who I was. And I was starting a spiritual awakening. And that was another big marker that like pushed me to level up. And then, after doing law of being, going through all that really helped. And then in March of 2020, I started writing and posting my positivity. And ever since then, I just get these little hits of like spiritual awakening throughout what I do. And it's just been kind of an ongoing like unfoldment as I go on here, but it was life-changing. And the spiritual awakening just brought so much clarity and peace. And I'm still going through it on some levels because we're always growing and learning, but here I am today and I'm super grateful for my journey.
Mm-hmm. And spiritual awakening is actually something that does not come to an end.
Right.
And I'm not saying it to scare anyone. I'm saying it to excite everyone, because this is such a beautiful and such a rewarding journey. Yes, like any journey, there's going to be hard times, but those hard times, once you have the ability to look at it from a different perspective, they are not hard. They are resting moments where I often refer to them, and I know you, Bethany, as well do, healing moments. I'm healing right now because I've done a marathon, I've done a sprint. So now my body, my mind needs to rest. and that there's different stages that, of spiritual awakening, and it keeps changing, and we can also not necessarily go to the beginning, but in a way at the beginning, but it would be a different beginning. So thank you, Bethany, for sharing your journey. And I know it's you only had a couple of minutes to share your lifelong journey, so only so much can be said. So thank you for sharing that. Now, Meagan, how about your journey? Tell us about it.
Well, I first want to start with saying that I do feel that we all start our spiritual journey from birth, right? When our soul and body come together. It's just about how, our circumstances and what goes on in life. Mine definitely started when I was 5, and, really dealing with death. Death was the first thing that I dealt with. My sister passed away at 5, and, I had a out-of-body experience and realized that this whole thing was something I had no idea about. And it made me come outside of myself. It made me become an observer of myself. And also realized that, I'm the person that can only help me on my spiritual journey. And growing up, I always kind of had this notion of loving myself and having this confidence. And but as you get older and become a teenager, and hormones and the world around you starts to really influence you, and I got caught up in that, and I had a lot of different things that happened in my life that kind of crumbled that spiritual side of me that was really connected to myself, and it really broke and disconnected me from my spiritual side. And that was about at 16. And I became really reckless. I started externalizing everything, and nothing was my fault. Everything was everyone else's fault. And as I kept going in my journey, another college experience, I kind of hit rock bottom again. And life always keeps giving you lessons, and I still didn't learn from that lesson. But a little seed inside my head was like, Meagan, you've been here before. You have loved yourself. You have done all these things. What happened? Where can we go back to remembering how to do all these things that you already know how to do? You've just become so disconnected from it. So about, I want to say 1920, I had a lot of traumatic things happen to me, but instead of kind of taking that and getting super depressed and everything, which I did for a short period of time, but I started trying to heal myself and really uncover what can make me happy in life, and figuring out those things, which, I started exercising. This was when I became a vegetarian at this time, and just started really shifting my world, and where travel started coming into, my mind. Like, I really want to travel the world. I want to go and do this. And then it's funny because, like you said, Bethany, like, you didn't want to like use drugs or anything like that. I was the same. I really didn't want to. And even at 19, I stopped drinking alcohol. And for me, I was never really big on using drugs or anything pharmaceutical or fun drugs. But around 21 was when weed became legal here in Washington State. And I was 21, and I was like, okay, like, I learned a lot more about marijuana and how it can help us. So I actually started using that as a mirror for myself. And whenever I would smoke it, all these thoughts would pop up, and it kind of slowed me down to actually process these thoughts that were coming, and filtering them, and really recognizing them and how they made me feel. And again, not letting them kind of control me, but learning how to sit with them, how to take deep breaths, how to do, yoga. And, that's really when I got into that, is doing yoga, doing meditation, but also because I got in a really bad car accident. So that also helped me to heal my body. And then I went traveling and I traveled the world. And for me, it was about discovering myself. However, I still got very disconnected from myself because I had a lot of addictions that I needed to get rid of. And it was really hard for me to kind of shed all of those away and get down to like the root of where these traumas and things that I can't really heal right now. And, you know, another really traumatic thing happened. I think, what was I, 26? And I hit rock bottom again, but I was in such a better place in my life because I had so many tools now to help me through all of it. Instead of getting anxious about, oh my God, is this going to happen again? Or depressed and saying, oh my God, how did these things happen again to me? And like just sit and wallow in them. I started looking at it as, okay, thank you, universe, for really showing me my lessons in life and me really seeing them for what they are. And I'm going to move on from them. And, you know, traveling was the biggest thing for me to uncover my spiritual journey. And now it's great because I've learned all those tools and life has been like, all right, Meagan, you're going to go back into where all of these traumas stemmed from, where you disconnected yourself. And we're going to see if you've really, truly learned your lessons in life. And it has been awesome. I mean, of course, I go through ups and downs, but they're not as bad as I imagined they would be coming back to this place. And I've really reinvented myself and I've really connected back to who Meagan is. And all of these tools that I already had within me are coming out and I'm using them over and over again. So that's my short version of my spiritual journey and spiritual awakening.
Yeah, right. I mean, you can't, from 5 years old. And I honestly, thank you for saying that. What I heard you say, and thank you for saying that, it's that we are all spiritual beings. We are born spiritually awakened and ready to receive. Right? That's why we're open, like we're like a sponge. We're so open to receive. And most of the programming happens before the age of 7. So my spiritual awakening, as everybody can hear now and see, that there's 2 different spiritual awakenings, and there's actually not 2, and in here right now there's 3. And if you're listening, add a 4th in there, and however many people are listening, each and every person is going to have a different spiritual awakening. So over my spiritual awakening, that also started from birth, but it was like a slow progress, and it's a different journey, right? But for me, the I guess the pinnacle points, I guess, that comes to mind is getting married. It's a huge experience. And then parading myself in front of people. It does something to the psyche, right? And all of these things, even every time you step in front of a classroom and you do a presentation, you are awakening. Like you're snapping yourself into yourself each and every time you do that. So for me, it started from birth, but the ones that I really remember is presentations at school, where I was like, I kid you not, I was taking a shower as I was presenting things with myself, with my sweat. Luckily, it did not smell. So even though stress, sweat smells. It has like a different scent to it. And then losing the twins. That is what really got me into. That's when I experienced fear firsthand, and it threw me in for a loop. At work, there was a lot of experiences in there as well. Moving up at work, getting promotions, that does, that triggers the awakening. Traumatic experiences usually are the ones that And it's not necessarily the first one. Sometimes it can be the first traumatic experience, like the twins. That was a very traumatic experience. But that wasn't the one that pushed me over the edge that I felt I started to experience the signs, like clear signs of spiritual awakening that I did not know what they were. And what I wanted to share is more of those signs that can help everyone to kind of see, is this you? How does this resonate with you? Does it make sense? Where do I go from here? So one of the things that Meagan, you mentioned was like getting, what I heard you say was like getting caught up into in the materialistic world.
Yeah. Or just external factors, right? Instead of internalizing and, you know, I became so obsessed with what does everyone think about me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness, I need what everyone wants. And, you know.
Yes. Yeah. And kind of like starting to put together an image. This is what was happening with me, putting together an image of who I'm supposed to be and who I'm supposed to become and what I'm supposed to have in my life based on external sources, which are not me. And what helped me to realize that, realize that the things that weren't meant to be mine, that weren't meant to be, that actually I did not want to be mine, that it was somebody else's things that I wanted, something I saw, something I heard. I'm like, oh, that sounds awesome. I'd like that. I want that. But that's not really what we want. It was just sitting down and feeling it, each and everything. So here are the signs. I started noticing that I used to be more of an extrovert and an introvert in a way, and I started to notice myself feeling disconnected from people, from the world, and detached. And usually this is like one of the very first signs when you start to feel yourself like you're not part of the world in the way, and there's no don't feel connection to anyone else in your life. I started questioning my beliefs. What do I believe, right? And questioning what do I believe and what makes sense to me and why. And for me, I was never really a religious person, but this is when I started to question, what is religion and what's the other side? What options do I have, right? What do I do? Now the next one was, and this one is quite, a lot of people seem to be experiencing this, and this is vivid dreams, like very vivid. And some mornings they were so vivid that I didn't even remember what they were, but I felt it. Like I was in a different place, in a different world, and I have gone through something. I wake up with those experiences. Another one is relationships. When I started to notice that there was shifts in relationships, and that there, like, the biggest one was that there was no connection. That a lot of relationships that I had were based on me trying to be someone to someone. And it came from a place of needing them. And there was no real connection between me and those individuals. And that one was really tough. It was really tough because there's a lot that we all go through, right? And then releasing those relationships because there's attachments. The next one was noticing synchronicities or experiencing deja vus. It's like, oh my God, I've been here before. This feels like, what is this feeling? Like I've been here before. Then remember how I was talking about questioning religion and questioning what else is there? Then I would find myself just finding rocks or nature, just bringing it home, or would go to like a spiritual store, and I would buy crystals and stones and just collect them. Why? It's because I felt like it was becoming a part of, it was important to me. Like spirituality started to become important because it was something, it was more than who I was. It was something outside of me, and yet it's not. It's inside of me. It is who I am. My intuition was, I learned what intuition was, and I started to play around with it. I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. So let's just be intuitive, as you know, I know that all of us are. Another one is, and this is part of being an empath as well, but I always ignore these signs, is that sense of knowing when someone is being fake or is trying to manipulate me. Whereas before I would tell myself that it's just, I never even paid attention. I don't even know what I was telling myself when these things just came up, and I felt it. It was my intuition telling me, oh my God, watch out. They are lying and they are fake. And I still allowed those people in my life because,
Can I say, because I think as empaths, we see the goodness in everyone. We see the core of who everyone is. So we try to kind of deny that part of themselves and like, oh, no, but they're truly a great person. So we kind of unfortunately let those people into our lives.
Yeah, that's a great point. And that I now like hearing you say that, that's exactly what it was, is because I saw past that and I did not allow myself to stick with that. I went past, and it's almost like that's not who they are. That's who they're trying to be. Because we're all putting up, not all of us, but most of us are putting up
a mask.
We're in a masquerade, and we're trying to be someone who people in our life expect us to be. And that's why as empaths we sense that, but we push past that, because the reason why people are continuing to be unauthentic is because they don't know how to be authentic. They don't know how to allow themselves to be themselves. So the next one that I experienced was just kind of like an awareness that everyone is in their own path, and everyone has their own mind. And just because I understand what I'm saying to someone does not mean that they will actually understand what I'm saying. And if I try to explain, doesn't mean they were still going to understand, right? And in understanding all of that, recognizing that everyone is on their own path and everyone is on their own journey, allowing them to do that without inserting myself in there, right? And then following that is like, and this is where that's the hard part, wanting to be in service, wanting to help, wanting to give. And then if you're on your own path, how can I help? You know what I mean? And that was a big challenge, because I have answers for you, but wait, you're on your own path. You got to figure your own shit out. So that was a big challenge. And then noticing that there were people in my life who were like mentors coming into my life, helping me on my journey without attachment to my journey. They're like teachers. The huge one for me that had me on my knees was feeling alone. The feeling of loneliness, it is something I would not wish upon anyone, but it was a beautiful feeling. As uncomfortable as it was beautiful, because it helped me to, that is what helped me to see that everyone was on their own path, and I was no longer attached to anyone. And it's almost like starting from scratch, and yet not. Yes, Meagan.
No, I will say that those were like my breakthrough moments, especially when I was traveling, was when I would just spend a month by myself. And it was crazy because, like you said, I mean, sometimes it does get lonely, but you learn how to be your own best friend. You learn how to have fun and how to be creative and to be your authentic self, because no one else is telling you that you should be something else. You can truly be you, and no one's judging you. If you're judging yourself, we can help you.
Exactly. And what the next one is like the natural world that I mentioned, like crystals and wanting to go outside. For you, it's traveling, because that's the natural world, just on a bigger map.
Yeah.
Right. Finding yourself more connected, or wanting to go out more and connect, or sitting there with your crystals or a leaf or some kind of nature, or with your plants. That's where I became, as my mom called it, a plant hoarder. I would find seeds, I would buy seeds, I would plant them. This one is dying, just throw it out. And I'm like, no, 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 I'm gonna bring it back to life. So like I had plants in a lot of places, and I was labeled as crazy. Anyways, that was part of my awakening. And thinking back, that started when I was in my early 20s. I was 22 years old when we lost twins. So that's when it really started for me, right? Wanting to grow something outside of myself, right? Not in myself, not in my belly, but outside of myself, from seed. Another one, I remember my teeth would be chattering, like I was freezing, and my body would be like twitching and like vibrating. I'd be like, oh my God, what the hell? I'm not cold, I'm warm. And it would be like random times of the day, sometimes more than once a day. And I didn't know what it was, but I've learned that was Kundalini awakening, which is spiritual awakening. Muscle spasms, twitching, my arm feeling really weird. Not the heart attack arm, but the other arm, right? That's kind of like physical symptoms, I guess, in a way, and huge change of routine. We're not wanting to do anything, wanting to sleep more. I started feeling like I looked at the world differently, really. I mean, there's a lot more that I've experienced, but another one that really stands out to me is feeling like I do not belong. Looking up into night sky and just crying and begging to be taken home. Like, even now talking about it, I can still feel it. But that one was another, I guess, description, feeling lonely, like I don't belong here. This is not what my experience of life was supposed to be like. Realizing that I was meant for more, with just using different words, that what I'm doing is not it. Feeling lost and confused and disoriented, like, and it literally felt like I woke up one day and I'm like, where am I? This is not Earth. This is something else. This is not home. This is something else. So those are like the signs that stood out to me, like looking back and replaying my past, of what were the signs of my spiritual awakening, that I ignored because they were uncomfortable. And the moment that I decided I was no longer going to be ignoring it, that I'm going to do something about it, it was the moment that I stopped feeling powerless and I started feeling powerful, because I realized on a cellular level that I was the one in control, and I had a choice to continue with the suffering and allow everybody else give me the labels of, this is depression, you're sick, you're crazy, you need to fix that shit, to realizing there's absolutely nothing wrong with me. I am not depressed. I am just waking up to reality, to life, to myself. And there's nothing to fix. There's just a lot to learn from my past experiences, from my current ones, and from my future ones. So I can choose to look at it in a negative way that has a lot of negative attachment to it from the whole entire world. Because the moment you say depressed, right away you belong in the psycho word, right? Or at least it used to be back in the day. Now it's kind of same kind of stigmas, but what I'm saying is that all three of us had a choice of how to go about it. And all three of us chose to grow through it.
And get help.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
And to help ourselves.
Yes. I started helping myself first because as we were running out of time, I already decided in the morning I was going to be doing a live video later on in my Facebook. So I'm going to be sharing what I did to work through all the stuff, to grow through all of this. And hiring a coach was the one that was the most powerful.
I agree. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, we don't even have the time to get into the reasons why. But if you're listening or you're watching and you don't know why, do some research, read some blogs, have a conversation with one of us. Like, go find out for yourself why you need a coach. I found out for myself why I needed a coach. Bethany did the same thing. I can see the nod. Meagan did the same thing. And I mean, the best thing we can all do is educate ourselves.
And I think because it holds us accountable. We hold each other accountable, and that's what we need in our life. We need someone that has knowledge, has more experience, and can hold us accountable to healing ourselves and going on this spiritual journey.
Yeah. And Meagan, you mentioned that you help people find their purpose. That is also a spiritual journey. Every coach, I believe, takes their client through a spiritual journey, one way or another. Building a business, that's a spiritual journey.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, OMG. Yeah, there's so much awakening happens when you decide to build your own business. Yeah. So as we are wrapping this up in the last little moments here together, what are some of your closing thoughts, ladies?
I would say that don't get too caught up in what society tells you to do and what you should do. Because that's not being authentic, you're being what other people want you to be. And going back to remembering who you were before the world told you who you should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I would say to enjoy your journey, even though sometimes the journey gets a little tense, a little shaky, but to work through it and just enjoy and to find those little golden nuggets of greatness that are sprinkled in everything, and to not get stuck in the what ifs, because when you're stuck in the what ifs, then you miss the beauty of life around you.
Yeah, those are beautiful points. And it's a great way to close everything that we were talking about. What I would again say is do the work. Stop dreaming of waking up with everything fixed for you and everything done for you as the version of yourself that you want. Because if you don't do the work, you would not know how to maintain it. And if you do the work yourself, this is something you can own, you can be proud of, and no one can ever take that away from you. But if it was done for you, I don't know about you, but I would not feel successful, like achieved it and I had it done and I did it myself.
Mm-hmm.
So life is a roller coaster and it's going to be ups and downs. And appreciating the ups and appreciating the downs takes practice.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the growing. So go out there and do that.
Mm-hmm.
And be grateful for everything. That's another big one. Yeah. And really be grateful for it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just say thank you, right? That's what gratitude is. Just say thank you for another day. If that's all you can say, that's all you can say, right? Tomorrow, you'll be able to say more. A little bit at a time. So that is all we have for today. Thank you, ladies, so
Thank
very
you.
much
Thank you.
for a powerful podcast today. And thank you, everybody, for listening and watching. If you like what you see, subscribe to whoever's channel you're on. Or to all channels, even better.
Right.
And make sure you do that bell notification button so that way you are in the loop and you know when the next podcast is coming out for you and you can listen to it.
And if you really find an impact, share it. Share it for everyone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And we all know someone who could use this. So think of that person. Now send it to them. That's it. Okay. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. Much love.
Much love.
Talk to you.
Bye.
Bye.